Barbecue Pit Live. We are back another Tuesday night preview. No UFC this weekend. So fortunately, we're going to be talking about Eagle FC 44, the company that Habib Nurmagomedov bought out. They'll be having an event this Friday at the FlexCast Arena in Miami, Florida. Excuse me. Which is pretty cool. It's going to be headlined by famous kickboxer Tyron Sprong or Spong versus Sergey Karatanov. And then the co-main event will be Rashad Evans coming back after about a 4-year layoff, taking on Gabriel Chicho, we're going to call him because I can't pronounce his name. We talked about 4 fights here, previewed 4 different fights, the main event, the co-main event, and then Ray Borg, Cody Gibson, Lorik Ratzebab versus Zach Zane is also the first fight I previewed. And then we talked about the canceled fights and then the rest of the fights that are on the card. So we're going to kick it off. Lorik Ratzebab versus Zach Zane. Zach Zane comes into this fight with a 2-inch height, 1-inch reach advantage. He's a 15-9 as a professional mixed martial artist. He's got 10 wins by submission, 4 by knockout. He's been submitted in 6 out of 9 of his losses, and has been knocked out in only 1 of those losses. He's lost decision to Justin Gonzalez on Dana White's Contender Series back in 2019. Won a decision over the Nuna Doug at Bellator 236 in 2019, and then also had a BKFC fight, which he lost by KO to Martin Brown. Most recently, his most recent fight, he knocked out Steven Seiler at Fierce FC 17 in October of 2021. He'll be going up against Ratzebab, who is 14-4-1 as a pro. 7 wins by knockout, 4 by submission. Everybody knows him for those 2 runs in the PFL, which he lost in the finals 2019 and 2021. 3-4-1 in the company. Never been finished in his career. Great striking, great grappling. Very well-rounded going up against a tough opponent in Zach Zane. I think that's a really tough fight to pick. If I had to pick, I'm going to go Ratzebab, just purely based off his striking and grappling abilities. Being a lot more well-rounded than Zach Zane's striking. Ray Borg going against Cody Gibson. This is going to be Ray Borg's second fight since his UFC release. He is 1-0 since being released from the UFC, winning a decision over Jesse Arnett at UAE Warriors in June of last year. He's 14-5 as a pro. He went 8-5 in his time in the UFC. He's got key wins over Luis Samoka, Jesse Formiga, and Rogerio Bontorin. Excuse me. He's got 7 wins by decision, 6 by submission, meaning he only has 1 win by knockout. He's never been knocked out in his career, and he's only been submitted once early on. He's 5'4", and he has a 63-inch reach. He's going up against Cody Gibson, who is 5'10", with a 71-inch reach. So 6-inch height, 7-inch reach advantage, or 8-inch reach advantage for Cody Gibson, who is currently on a 3-fight winning streak right now. He won a decision over Gustavo Irac at LFA 51. Then he knocked out Louis Sanadakis at XMMA 2, and then won a decision over John Dodson at XMMA 3 in October of this past year. He went 1-3 in the UFC when he fought there in 2014. He's 18-7 as a pro. He's got 7 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission. He's never been knocked out in his career, but he was submitted in 4 out of 7 of his losses. Now, I'd like to see, let's see, it says never been knocked out and was submitted in 4 out of 7. So he's got 3 decision losses to 8 submission wins. So he's 8-3 by submission. He's going up against a good point fighter guy like Ray Borg. Ray Borg kind of towards the end of his career just got released by the UFC, went 1-0 since then. That's a tough one, man. It's you want to say Ray Borg, man, because Ray Borg has fought way more talented guys throughout his career. He is, he's fought Demetrius Johnson, for example, who was technically at one point looked at as the GOAT of the flyweight division. He didn't beat him or anything, but I mean, he beat guys like Luis Samoka, Jesse Formiga, and Rogerio Bontorin. And if we're looking at biggest wins for Gibson, we're looking at John Dodson. John Dodson's like almost 40 years old now, got to be. So I don't know how high in regard you hold that for Cody Gibson. He is coming in with a huge size advantage. Will that be enough to go up against a guy like Ray Borg? If I had to make a guess, because this doesn't, none of the picks count. We count UFC picks only. But if I had to make a pick here, I'm probably just going to lean on the size advantage of Cody Gibson. And, Ray Borg, he's a good kickboxer, but, grappling has never been a crazy forte of Ray Borg. So if they get to grappling, I think Cody Gibson being the longer, he might be able to throw up his legs, put up a choke, something like that. So I'm going to go Cody Gibson just off odds, straight up off odds. Co-main event, Rashad Evans versus Gabriel Chicho. Evans is making his return after 3.5 years off. His last fight being a knockout loss to Anthony Smith at UFC 225 in 2018. At the time of his retirement, he was on a 5-fight losing streak. His last win was a knockout win over Chael Sonnen at UFC 167 in November of 2013. So that is my birthday, the year that I graduated high school. He's 19-8-1 as a pro. He's got 13 wins by decision, 3 losses by knockout, and he's never been submitted in his career. He's 42 years old coming into this fight, 6 feet tall, 75-inch reach. He's going up against Chicho, who is 35 years old, 6'1", with a 71.5-inch reach. So he's a little bit taller, Chicho, but he has got a significant reach disadvantage coming in against Rashad Evans, who used to be known as a really, really good striker. I think towards the end of his career, got more known as a cardio type of guy, and then towards the really back end of his career, kind of just was like, hey man, you need to stop fighting, which is weird to see him come back, but he does. He looks good in the gym. He looks really good, muscular. He's definitely been working at this comeback for a really long time. I just don't know, with guys like that, it sucks because it's like, Chuck Liddell, you love Chuck Liddell. The nostalgia Chuck Liddell fight gives you is through the roof. But, Chuck Liddell has been, in his last however many fights, has been knocked out, and he's on an X amount of fight losing streak. And you just don't want to. It's good to see those guys fight again. It's just not good to know what they're doing to their body and to their mind with all these knockout losses and the loss after loss after loss. Gabriel Church goes 12-5 as a professional, 100% finish rate, 7 wins by knockout, 5 by submission. He's been finishing 3 out of 5 of his losses, 2 by knockout, once by submission. 3 out of 5 of his losses belong to Jake Collier, Ian Heinisch, and Jordan Wright. So majority of his losses are to high-level UFC caliber guys. He's 5-8-1. As a grappler over the past 4 years. He started doing grappling matches, 5-8-1 in that time. And his last fight was a TKO win over Simon Marini at XMMA 3 in October. We talked about the one that John Dodson was on with Cody Gibson. I think, man, a 100% finish rate does not look good for a guy like Rashad Evans coming off a 3.5-year layoff and a 5-fight losing streak before that 3.5-year layoff. So just based off that, he's 7 years older than this guy. I'm going to go ahead and go Gabriel Church. I don't know much about him, but Rashad Evans would have had to have fought somebody that was fighting up a weight class that is like 5-0 or something, like no experience, for me to be comfortable picking Rashad Evans. This guy's going up against somebody who, 35 years old. You're either on right at the back end of your peak or right in the peak of your career. It depends on what type of fighter you are when you started fighting, things like that. Just not a good look for Rashad Evans, unless Rashad Evans has been training this whole time and comes out looking like a goddamn monster. You never know. Like I said, these picks don't count, so I'm just throwing around picks here. I'm just saying what I think. But let's move on to the main event. Tyron Sprong versus Sergey Karatanov. Karatanov 6'4", 75-inch reach. Sprung 6'2", Jesus Christ, 72.5-inch reach. So Karatanov has a 2-inch height, 2.5-inch reach advantage. Karatanov is 33-9 as a professional mixed martial artist, 22 wins by knockout and 9 by submission. He's got 8 out of 9 of his losses are finishes, 4 by submission, 4 by knockout. His most recent fight was a knockout win over Fabio Maldonado at Paris FC in November of 2021. He's 7-4 as a professional kickboxer. He's got 5 knockouts in his kickboxing career. He's 1-1 against the GOAT Anderson Silva in kickboxing, and he also has kickboxing wins over Mighty Mo and Takumi Sato. His most recent kickboxing fight was 2018. He also went 2-0 as a professional boxer with knockout wins over Danny Williams in September of 2020 and Osborne Machimea in June of 2021. He also had one bare knuckle boxing fight, and that was a TKO win over Mike Cook in April of 2021. His opponent, Tyron Sprong, was 107-7-1-1 as a professional kickboxer. He ended his career with a TKO loss to Gokhan Saki in 2014. TKO loss, but, leg injury, so I guess he kind of beat himself there. 73 out of his 107 wins were by knockout, and 4 out of his 7 losses were via knockout. He's 14-0 as a professional boxer. 13 wins by knockout, 1 by decision. His last boxing match was a TKO win over Jason Mineta in August of 2019. And he's only had 2 MMA fights in his entire career, both of them, one being 2012, one being 2013. First one, a knockout win over Travis Bartlett, and then a decision over Angel Daneda for World Series of Fighting back in the day. So not a lot of MMA experience. Crazy amount of striking experience. Karatanov, I think, 9 submission wins, is going to come in with a significant grappling advantage. And this is what any MMA fighter would do to a boxer or a predominant kickboxer when they come into MMA, is they're going to take them down and bring them into deep water. So I got Sergey Karatanov easily in the main event, unless he just gets highlight reel knocked out in the first round. But he lands that first takedown, and Spong just kind of just starts to get tired, and it's a different level of tired. Yeah, I'm missing something in here. It's a different level of tired when you're wrestling compared to when you're 5 rounds in a kickboxing match. It's just a different type of being tired. And that, obviously he's been training, and he has fought MMA in the past, and I think he's at I think he used to be at Black Zillions, so I think now he would be, what's the gym called? I can't remember what the gym's called. But anyway, he trains with a lot of high-level mixed martial artists, so I don't think that he's going to come in way too naive to the grappling. But Karatanov should have a significant advantage in the grappling for sure. Rest of the card plays out. John Howard taking on Ramazan Kurmagomedov. Raymond Magomediev versus Anthony Njuke. Dylan Salvador is taking on Arman Aspanov. Jorgen De Castro will be fighting Sean Asher. Miles Hunsinger versus DeMarcus Jackson. Stiki Mudev versus ID Majidane, I think. Sean Bunch will be taking on Fidras Kasanov. And then there was a couple fights that got canceled from this card. Sprung was originally supposed to fight Antonio Bigfoot Silva. He was replaced, of course, by Sergey Karatanov. Hannah Barao was supposed to be on this card fighting Horacio Gutierrez. That fight was scrapped completely. Ratzebab was supposed to be fighting Daryl Horcher. Of course, he got replaced. And then Sean Bunch was supposed to be fighting Adi Alec, but he was replaced by Fridis Kasanov. So I think, for, Eagle FC, obviously, Eagle FC 44. So they've obviously had 43 prior mixed martial arts cards. So not new or anything. It's just the first card, I believe, since Habib bought the company. And man, what a statement did he make, because he's got a crazy amount of good fights on here. I mean, normally like I would say like a B League kind of a promotion would have a lot of guys making their debut, a lot of guys that are 1-0, 2-0, 1-1, 0-2, stuff like that. This guy, Habib, put together a card that the first fight of the night is a guy that's 10-5, taking on a guy that's 8-2. And then the guy with the most inexperienced record, Dylan Salvador, is 3-1. He's taking on Arman Ospanov, who is 11-4. So he's got almost nobody on this card that is like a beginner. He's got Miles Hunsinger, 7-0, taking on DeMarcus Jackson, who is 11-6. I mean, you got undefeated Ramazan Karamagomedov, who's 9-0, taking on John Howard, who's 20-17-1. Let's see anybody else that's interesting looking. Of course, you got Karatanov, who we talked about, 33-9. Going against Sprung, I guess 2-0 in MMA. Buddy is 107-7-1-1. He's got fucking 116 professional kickboxing fights, so you can't really call him a new guy per se. See any of these other guys' records? 14-1-1, 15-9. Yeah, I mean, nobody else has really a beginner type of record. So this is a very, very stacked, very good card Habib put together for his first with the company. Very proud of him there. Hope, I wouldn't say I hope Habib comes out of retirement, because you got to let guys enjoy their retirement. They retire because they want to preserve their longevity in their life. And you got to respect that, and you got to, respect them for what they do in the cage now that they're not in the cage. But it would definitely be cool to see him come out of retirement and fight for his own promotion. Maybe a little bit of a conflict of interest, but it would still be pretty cool to see. Next Tuesday, we'll be previewing the February 5th card, UFC on ESPN Plus 58. Jack Kermanson will be taking on Sean Strickland in the main event. I think they got a bunch of fights on the preliminary card here, but they don't have a co-main event set just yet. Shakvat Rachmanov will be taking on Carlson Harris. I don't think that's going to be a co-main or anything. I think that's just a extremely exciting fight. Brian Battle to Sean Gore, I think, was supposed to be the Ultimate Fighter finale. I'm not sure what happened with it, why it didn't happen prior. But if it is, they possibly might put that as a co-main event just because it's the finale type thing. Sam Alvey, Phil Hawes, definitely potential to be a co-main event there. Other than that, man, I think that's their only chances, man. I think they're either going Brian Battle, Sean Gore, Sam Alvey, versus Phil Hawes, or they're going to put another fight on here. But there's already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 fights here. I really don't see them adding any more fights to a fight night card. So it looks like one of those two fights will probably be the co-main event, which that fight, one of those fights being the co-main event, a lot of people are going to say, that's a really shallow, not deep, not exciting card. But I mean, it's really good fights, man. You can't be such a casual sometimes, man. You can't just be like looking for Conor McGregor and John Jones and Habib and Dustin Poirier in all the cards. You can't do that. You got some of these matchups are really, really good matchups just because you don't know their names. It doesn't really mean much. Really check it out. We just seen, not a lot of people knew Victor Henry. What kind of a show did he put on in his fight this past weekend? So can't really hold too much into that the big name factor. It's going to be a pretty good card next weekend. And next Tuesday, we'll be back to preview that main card and talk about the prelims. Until then, stay barbecued. You know what it is, motherfuckers.